One of the technical aspects of community solar is that the developers typically sell these project recs to the utilities to help the utilities meet renewable portfolio standards. And so this is why every single group is involved in, and it benefits everyone. But a lot of corporates also want these recs, and it's hard in order to get them from a project, but they're very, very expensive. And so Ampion created a way to allow corporate customers to be able to match their subscription with Greenie Recs.
Hello and welcome to the Solar Maverick podcast, where solar meets entrepreneurship and experience. I'm your host, Benoit Thanjan, so let's get into it.
Hi, this is Benoit, your host of the Solar Maverick podcast. I'm really excited to have Vihan Kong on the podcast. He is the Senior Executive Director, Enterprise Acquisition at Ampion, which is a customer management company. And we're going to talk about a lot of interesting topics today about community solar, about how Ampion differentiates from other customer acquisition companies. Also, some of the unique things that Ampion's doing with big corporates. Vihan, welcome to the podcast. It's great having you. If people are not familiar with Ampion, can you tell us about the company?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is quite an honor, and this is going to be a fun next 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes here. Yeah, so I work for a company called Ampion. We are deep in the space of community solar. And what I really like to tell folks is we are the glue that keeps community solar alive. We work not only with developers, utilities, and the end users, but we really make sure that community solar is available to all three factors to make them work smoothly. Our developers are our clients. We represent them as they bring projects on board in different states. We help with their revenue management. We also do a lot of their customer acquisition for them as well. And that's where my team comes in play. I work directly with a lot of Fortune 500 type of customers who have sustainability and even ESG goals within their space. And they rely on Ampion to be able to provide them options that allow them to meet those goals. Overall, Ampion is a fun place to work. We have a lot of great-minded folks who are really, really wanting to make sure that within the energy space, everybody is able to receive discounts on their utility bills, as well as helping to ensure that the world is a little bit greener via the solar farms that are built by our developers.
Yeah, definitely. That is really helpful, Vihan. And it's interesting to hear more about Ampion and the interesting things that Ampion's doing. You know, you've been in the energy and renewable energy space for a long time. I think it would also be helpful to get your background because you have a really diverse background and what got you to this role at Ampion.
Yeah, so I've been in the energy industry for about 20 years now. I started off a little known company called Constellation. I say that in jest, of course. I worked there doing everything from operations, demand side management, helping to run their demand response teams for the Northeast, as well as do commodity sales for them there. From there, I went on and did a lot of energy efficiency, energy financing before I made my way to Ampion. I've been here now for about just over 3 years. And it's been quite a ride. It's been one of the things where, being even in energy for so many years, there's a lot of misconceptions around community solar. I kind of thought it was one of those things where, oh, you have a solar farm and it's for the local municipality and whatnot. But what we've really, have come to see is this evolution of community solar. And what I love about it is that it allows every single person in that community to participate in getting being a part of the clean energy movement. For folks who don't own or can't put solar on their roofs, this allows them to receive energy credits from a nearby farm. For corporations that may not have the resources to put on their own solar facility or just don't have the space, allows them to also participate and receive these energy credits onto their utility bill. And the nice thing about just being in the energy industry overall is that I have a lot of insight in terms of different strategies a lot of these corporations have, and I've been able to help layer community solar as one factor of that energy strategy for them, and it's quite exciting.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually really interesting. Like, what is the energy strategy for a lot of these corporate companies? And obviously, a lot of them might not even have like an energy team. Like, what are some of the big sort of, I guess, takeaways that they're looking for when they're looking at energy strategy?
Right. So for a lot of them, it's really around how do they make their facilities work the best it can. And so not only just from an energy standpoint, but also from a process standpoint for them. Electricity, energy in general is the backbone for how many people live their lives every single day, right? Like you wake up, turn on the light, and you go in your bathroom, right? Same thing for a lot of these corporations. They go into their office building, they go into a manufacturing warehouse, and they have to turn on the electricity, turn on the machinery. And so for them, it is really important for them to understand how they're using the energy, but also what they can do to minimize any potential cost associated with it. And so, when deregulation happened 25 years ago or so, a lot of folks just didn't quite know what to do because you were always buying energy from your local utility. And with deregulation, it allowed these corporations to become a little more sophisticated, either by choice or because they kind of had to. And so they have all these different layers of energy, right? So it could be, buying a third party supply. It could be doing something around a PPA or a VPPA. A lot of folks now have what we call an unfunded mandate in order to become, carbon neutral by a certain date based on their board's, recommendation. And so they have to come out now and figure out, how do we become carbon neutral? How do we lower our energy costs? And so all the different strategies around it can really start with community solar. I find community solar to be really one of those building blocks, one of the base blocks for the energy strategy, because it allows them to put a savings onto their electricity bills right off the bat without doing much work. The ability to get these credits applied onto the utility bills is very, very easy. It's such a simple thing that you don't need to have a degree in energy. You don't have to be very sophisticated to do it. You just have to understand your state's rules and if you're eligible to participate. So that's what Ampion does. We will go through with all these different corporations and talk about their facilities and help them figure out which states they participate in and what facilities are eligible to do that. And then from there, we'll put them onto these programs where they can save anywhere from 5 to 10% off of their utility electric costs. And it's a really simple way to kind of start their sustainability practices and allow them to further enhance their energy needs over the time period that they're looking for.
That makes sense. And that's a really good explanation of what corporates are looking at. And obviously, you did a great job of explaining what is community solar and what are the benefits to customers. Can you talk about like what states are currently popular for community solar and maybe what potential states in the future are going to be good states for community solar going forward? I mean, eventually, I'm assuming all 50 states should have community solar, but I think it's more complicated.
I think the goal is for all 50 states. I think that's what everybody in the industry wants and what we're all striving for. Community solar is in a handful of states. Well, I should say more than that, really. In many different states right now. And there's really two types of programs of community solar I kind of want to be very clear about. One is where there are third-party developers who are allowed to come in and build solar farms and participate in these programs. The others are typically in states where the utility run the community solar programs. So for the utility run programs, think of states like Florida, where the local utility there has a really nice community solar program and is doing a very good job there. But states that Ampion third-party developers are around, so states like Maine has been really, really fantastic in developing community solar over the last several years. Seeing a lot of movement in New York and Illinois. Those are probably the three most popular states right now for community solar and where a lot of developers are building. But you're also seeing new states come on. We're seeing Washington having a program in the near future. We're seeing legislation in Iowa and even Ohio and Pennsylvania. So I think, as more and more folks kind of start understanding that community solar is a great way for folks to save money, you'll see more and more states come on board and hopefully pass their own laws that allow within their own states. In general, Ampion works in every single state where third-party development is provided. And, we are always on the lookout for other states and helping I won't say write tariffs, but we're helping to lobby in those states to increase more community solar and enhance that for those other states.
Definitely, that makes sense. Obviously, the lobbying and education of different state legislation is really important to get these community solar programs passed. Can you talk about, I know we talked about this in the pre-interview, what is Ampion Plus?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Ampion Plus is this product that we created 3 years ago. It matches Green E-Rex with your community solar subscription. And so it's the first of its kind in the industry. We're very happy to have created this and worked with a couple of different corporate customers to get this off the ground. Really, what it does is it takes a portion of your community solar savings And then Ampion then provides national greenie recs to that subscriber. So it's a way to be able to say that they're using renewable energy as part of their community solar subscription. One of the technical aspects of community solar is that the developers typically sell these project recs to the utilities to help the utilities meet renewable portfolio standards. And so this is why, every single group is involved and it benefits everyone. But a lot of corporates also want these recs, and it's hard in order to get them from a project, or they're very, very expensive. And so Ampion created a way to allow corporate customers to be able to match their subscription with Greenie Rex for it. And we're quite proud of it. We are, doing this in a way that really, really solves a problem for our corporate customers. And we're excited that it's been so successful thus far. And we see it just growing over the next several years.
Yeah, that's exciting, obviously, to combine community solar with the renewable energy credit, Greenie, which is kind of the accepted, renewable energy credit that corporates are comfortable with. And it's usually sited near where the facility is or where they're trying to offset.
Yeah, and the nice thing about green recs is that they're verified recs, right? A corporation does not have to go and explain, where they got the recs from, why these are good recs or whatnot. It's a national standard that when they are reporting on their ESG reports or any other sustainability reports, they can confidently state that these green recs, that are provided by Ampion meet standards that are verifiable and are good. So that's one of the reasons why we went that route, is because we want to be able to give our peace of mind to our corporate customers so that when they're reporting, it's a standard that everybody can agree on.
Yeah, that is a great point. I appreciate you explaining that. And that goes actually into my next question. I know, Ampion was featured in Colgate-Palmolive's 2024 climate strategy and net zero carbon transition plan. Can you talk about that? Also seems it might involve Rex as well.
Yeah, we're very proud of being in their report. Colgate-Palmolive is international leader in their business, and the fact that they trusted Ampion to partner with them, really a wonderful thing. Specifically with their Toms of Maine site in Maine, and we've been able to fully allocate the whole site there onto one of the local community solar farms. And from there, they're helping the local residents have clean air, a greener atmosphere there. And that's all because, Colgate-Palmolive is one of the anchors on those sites. With that, there's a lot of residential customers on that site. And so they're helping the local community and those folks be able to save money on their utility bills. Community solar, I've talked about this partnership, right? Community solar really needs everybody to participate. The large corporate customers, the residential customers, the utilities and developers, all to work together in order to make such a great product exist. And we're super excited that Colgate-Palmolive, the Toms of Maine site, trusted Ampion to work with them and get them onto these sites for them.
Yeah, that's great. Congrats. That's a huge, obviously, opportunity with Ampion partnering with Colgate on that. And I thought it was interesting too to talk about another corporate that, people are very familiar with. Can you talk about how Ampion worked with Wendy's?
Yeah, Wendy's is another great brand, right? Reached out to us after hearing about Ampion Plus because they have, a really ambitious sustainability goal over the next several years to meet. And Ampion Plus allows them to help meet that goal. And so we're working with their corporate stores across the country, as well as several different franchises across the country to get them into community solar. We have enrolled many, many stores. We are providing them Rex through the Ampion Plus product, and it's been a really great relationship. I think, Wendy's is one of those types of companies, very forward thinking. They really are always care about their community and the fact that they're doing these types of initiatives, not just because, it's a good business practice, but because it's great for their local community. They are just so wonderful to work with. And, we couldn't have asked for a better partner to help us and roll out the Ampion Plus product across the country.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really appreciate you sharing that. And as we all know, with the energy transition, it's going to take all forms of energy, not just solar, to basically meet the increasing requirements for energy in the US. What other renewable energy technologies outside of solar you think will be more mainstream or popular in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of different options out there. And I think a lot of folks have their own really strong opinions on these. I'll just kind of give my 2 cents around it. I think energy storage is a really big thing for the country in terms of, trying to become energy independent over the next several years and decades. I think alternative types of fuel sources within the renewable space is important. Fuel cells, even, nuclear, right? Nuclear is making a comeback now. You're seeing a lot of data centers being built by some of the large tech companies. And the amount of energy that they need just can only be done quickly via some of the existing nuclear capabilities that are in place in the US. There have been some great press releases by some of these big tech companies and what they're doing, and applaud them for thinking a little bit outside the box, right? And trying to get some carbon free energy. But I still think, solar is a huge driver for the future in terms of having more renewable energy. Wind is also important. You're seeing a lot more, wind farms trying to be built across the country. And then there's, more hydro that I think we can tap into several different markets. But, me personally, I think energy storage is a big thing. I think coupling solar with energy storage can help solve a lot of different things in the future.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point with solar plus storage and standalone storage as well. Modular nuclear, which we've heard, as you mentioned, like the big tech companies talk about. It's interesting, like we had in the pre-interview, and you were talking about a book that you read. I thought it was pretty interesting. Can you tell us about the book and be some highlights as well?
Sure. So I'm reading a book right now called Reinventing Fire. It's by Amory B. Lovins. It's a really great book. It's a fascinating read. I encourage folks to go to their local bookstore and pick it up or order it from that bookstore. It talks about the need for more renewable energy in the country. It makes great points in terms of how we can become energy independent outside from oil and gas and even coal by doing different things. Case in point, some of them is our transportation system, right, becoming more efficient, right? We can strive for more high mileage vehicles, right? If it's the batteries or even a hybrid system. See, it talks about, I feel like I'm on a book report now, and it talks about smarter buildings. I think buildings are very inefficient right now. And as we build new skyscrapers, office buildings, homes, right, I think we need to really think about how we're building it in a more not just sustainable way, but from energy perspective. Having very easy things to do like energy efficiency windows, but going geothermal would be a wonderful thing. Everyone having solar and battery on their homes would be a nice thing. Participating in community solar is a great way to help solve that if you can't put solar on your site. At the end of the day, I think it speaks to the ability that the US can become energy independent via renewable energy. And I think that's a great way for our country to move in that direction. There's still a need for oil and gas and coal, right? Like, I'm not saying those have to go away, but I think if we can increase the amount of renewable energy in the country, that's going to help us lower costs in the long run and make sure that we have a good grid and make sure everything's efficient for us.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you sharing that book. I'm really interested in reading it after our conversation. I'll definitely put it as well in the notes of the podcast. So if anyone's interested in reading it, our listeners we call Mavericks. With customer acquisition, like how does Ampion differ from other customer acquisition companies in the space?
This may sound crass, but I'll say it. We know what we're doing. There's a lot of providers out there who are community solar, good companies. I'm not going to disparage them, but Ampion has a lot of really smart people who follow the rules in every single state. We understand them. We're able to act on those and make sure that we are providing great guidance to our developer clients and to our subscriber partners as well. I'll give you an example. In Illinois, we worked hand in hand with some of the regulatory folks there for the disclosure forms. We completely understand that process and have made sure that when we are enrolling subscribers onto those programs that we're following the rules to the T, right? So that we're always in compliance. I think, those small things differentiate us from our competitors because we're able to understand who the right subscribers are and how to get them for our developers. Well, that's not a sexy thing to talk about, right? The minutia of operations and the details of regulatory, that goes a long way because our developers can trust that we have the right customers, subscribers on the platform for them, and that they're going to be there for a very long time. And that's really what you want to have is a partner that is helping you maintain revenue for the long run and not causing problems. Other things for Ampion is, our platform, I think, is best in class. We're able to provide a lot of great reporting for our developers and for our subscribers. You can see, where your subscription is, and we're always trying to improve it. We've gotten some great feedback from our corporate customers on how to make it better, and we're constantly working on that. And so I think, our competitors are really good. We're all growing community solar, and that's a wonderful thing. But I think, what really keeps Ampion above and beyond our competitors is the little details. We really focus on making sure everything is done correctly. And that's why I'm really proud to be working here.
Yeah, definitely. That's really helpful. I appreciate you explaining. And the little details are so important, especially with building trust with the customer and then to be able to, partner ongoing. I think, it's all about the relationships. The little details are important. And it's interesting because, community solar is still early and it's going to grow exponentially. So obviously having those strong customer relationships in the beginning will be huge in the future for Ampion.
Right. Just to kind of point out, when we have our corporate customers, a lot of them are national, right? And so in the states that participate in community solar, we are enrolling them in those states. But as more and more states come on board, we'll be able to take those customers, those subscribers, and place them onto new sites in new states. I think that's another great thing to work with Ampion is because we're everywhere. So as you have a national footprint, Ampion is going to be matching that as community solar grows. And we're super excited for the future. We think community solar should be in every single state. We think it should be all over the world, in fact. And these are great programs that really benefit everybody involved. And I really do wish more and more localities are looking into this. And if you are, come talk to Ampion. We'd love to tell you what's been successful in one state versus another and help you, make a program in your state that's truly wonderful for your local community.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to kind of end the podcast. I mean, I think, the legislation aspect of it is so important. And then you've seen, like, from your customer acquisition and management experience, what's the best way to manage these programs. And so that's really great that you're willing to help. And that, anyway, you're early part of the sort of lobbying or suggesting policy and, educating, because I'm sure a large part of what you're doing, especially with like corporates and individuals, is educating them what is community solar, what's the opportunity, how they could save money. Sometimes I'm sure if you want to go into the discounts and how sometimes it's hard to convince customers because they think it's, too good to be true, if that makes sense. And they've had not so good experiences with third-party energy suppliers.
You're so right with that, Benoit. I mean, everyone says there's no such thing as a free lunch. And while that's true, there is such thing as, discounted utility credits for your local facility. I encourage folks to reach out to Ampion to understand community solar more. I encourage you to, go out and do your own research. At the end of the day, you're going to realize that community solar is a great way for your energy strategy, whether you're a large corporate customer or a residential customer, right? It's a great way for you to save money off of your utility bills. And, let's be frank, like there are very few ways right now to save money on your electricity bill. It's super hard to do that. And this is one that is, regulated by the states. It is made sure by the utilities. And if you can get onto community solar site, I highly encourage you to do that. And by the way, you should do it through Ampion because, you're going to get a better experience that way. Reach out to us, go to our website, send us an email. You'll see us at many different conferences across the country. Come over, say hi. We'd love to chat with you about how we can help you meet some of your energy goals over the next year and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. That is really helpful. I appreciate you explaining that, Vihan. Is there anything else that we should know about Ampion that we haven't spoken about?
Let's see. We are based in Boston. We have folks all over the country. I would say you've learned a lot about Ampion here. If there's any other questions you have, just feel free to reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Vihan on LinkedIn, so pretty easy to find me. But otherwise, reach out to anyone on our team and we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, like what, I guess, trends are you seeing within the industry from a customer acquisition or from Ampion's perspective in solar? You kind of talked about some trends during this interview, but it would be great if you could talk about like briefly two or three trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, so I mean, the trends what we're seeing right now are a lot around low to moderate income families. There's great need for those folks to participate in community solar. They are folks that I think are really vulnerable, right, to the ever fluctuating energy market. There are ways for them to save money through community solar. They should be doing that. But honestly, we have a lot of corporate interest in helping LMI families as well. I think there are stores and companies that are increasing their electricity usage over the next several years as they transition into the electrification of their facilities. And in the short term, that's going to raise energy prices for everybody. Again, the most vulnerable are the LMI communities who really aren't using that much energy. And so you see a lot of corporates trying to figure out ways to minimize that for LMI folks. And that's a really great thing. Ampion is trying to provide services around that where there's a sponsorship by corporate customers to help LMI families. We'd love to talk to more and more corporates about that. I think it's a win-win for everybody. So that's one of the things that we see within the market right now. Other things I think you're seeing is a lot of folks are looking for RECs within the community solar space. Unfortunately, project RECs typically aren't provided as part of the subscription, but via Ampion Plus, we can help you achieve some of those goals. And I think the other thing is, I think you're seeing a lot of just corporate involvement now and wanting in community solar. It's a simple win for these energy teams to be able to go to the leadership and say, hey, I found a way for us to save 10% off of your utility bills, and we don't have to do anything except sign a contract with a really good provider in Ampion. So I think those are some of the trends we're seeing. Happy to talk about more, but those are some good ones right now.
Those are definitely good ones. I appreciate you giving a pretty high level summary. I'm sure you could go into a lot more detail about that. I know you mentioned this before in the podcast. What is the best way for people to learn more about you and Ampion?
Yeah, so one thing you can do is you can reach out to us. It's enterprise@ampion.net. As an email, you can get to us. Our website is www.ampion.net. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Vihan on LinkedIn, I think, or one of the few. And so you can do that, as well as, if you see us out and about at conferences, come up and say hi to us. We're at many different conferences all over the country, and we'd love to have a chance to speak with you. But overall, I don't know, just come find us. I don't know how else to say it. You got my email address, you got our website, you can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, some good ones there.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have it on the notes of the podcast. I appreciate you listening to the Solar Maverick podcast and coming on the podcast. I think a lot of our listeners who we call Mavericks, and you're a Maverick yourself, will learn a lot from this interview. So I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule beyond to talk about.
You're welcome. And thank you. You have such a great podcast, and I love listening to you and all the guests you have. So this has been quite a treat. And, hopefully, we'll have more to talk about in the future, and hopefully I can get back on here and talk about some other stuff. So thank you so much.
Oh, anytime. I'm sure, as the industry continues to change, and adapt, and Ampion, I'm sure it's amazing actually for me to see. Like, I remember when Ampion first came into the industry or community solar, and then to see really how much the company's grown and the different product offerings. So yeah, definitely I'm excited in the future to talk. And as community solar gets bigger and bigger, I'm sure it's going to be exciting to talk about a lot more states than the few that you spoke about. But it starts somewhere, which is great. So thank you again, Vihan.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Solar Maverick podcast. The Solar Maverick podcast is brought to you by Renew Energy. We're a solar development and consulting firm. If you believe that this podcast is adding value to you, please give us a 5-star review and share with those that you think could benefit from this information. Please email all questions, suggestions, and feedback to info@renewenergy.com. That's info@reneuenergy.com. The Solar Maverick podcast is produced by Podcast Laundry and executive produced by Benoit Thanjan and Kevin Y. Brown.